Just to get everything started, I would like you to tell everyone your name, what your film is that we're going to be screening this year, and a little bit about what you did on the film.
Yeah, I'm James Sweet. I'm the writer, director, producer of Jason Rising, a Friday the 13th fan film. And among other things, with indie projects like that, you got to wear a lot of hats. So, I tackled the score, uh, set design, costume, did some special effects, makeup. So just, these are some of the things that I've dabbled in over time, being in haunted houses before. So I learned a little bit about all of that stuff. And when I was younger, I had my own little haunted house business that I did. And then I became an actor, and I was a musician in a band for a little bit. So it gave me all these little tools to dabble into to be able to create a film.
Okay. All right. So, tell me a little bit about your movie, Jason Rising.
Well, Jason Rising, in a short little plot summary is, we kind of follow the family story of the Daltrys. The intro takes place shortly after part 4, and we kind of connected it to the special features, the deleted scene at the end where Tommy and Trish, they find their mother dead in the bathtub, and Jason escapes from that point. He's still alive. He doesn't actually die. And so they take it, we take it from that point where Sheriff Daltrey and his 2 deputies box and crate up Jason Voorhees and take him to Camp Crystal Lake to bury him. And then we go to the present day where his son is now the sheriff, and he gets a call basically to go after 3 fugitives, females from the local corrections farm. And they happen to wander into Camp Crystal Lake on their escape, and that takes everybody into that hollowed area, of the curse. And we know what happens when we go to Camp Crystal Lake, right?
So that's what I actually liked about the film is that you took it in a different avenue with the prisoners instead of it being like counselors and the whole camp is open again, and they're trying to do a whole camp thing. What made you go in that direction? That's completely different than what I've seen before.
Well, like you said, it's a different take on it. It's a different way to enter the camp. I wanted to try to make it, at least in the concept of creating a film, I wanted it to feel like you didn't necessarily have to use Jason or Camp Crystal Lake to follow these characters in the movie. Like you could, if we just did a escape film where, it's a chase film where the sheriffs and the U.S. Marshals are after these fugitives, if you could rely on that as your story, then all the other stuff is icing on the cake. So it was just a different approach to doing it. I mean, how many times have we seen the same kind of thing where we just see these young kids going in? Sure, it may have been a great formula back in the day, but I think it's okay to be able to reach out and do something new with it.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the refreshing things about your film is that whole different aspect. I was like, oh, you're going to focus on the cops, the family cops, and you're going to focus on these fugitives instead of a bunch of tweens getting killed. So,
right.
It's very refreshing to see a film like that. And by the way, it's almost an hour long, so that's very unusual as well. Most of the fan films we get are like really short. So,
yeah, well, one of the first bar setting, Friday the 13th fan films that came out was Never Hike Alone by Vincent Dasani, who's a co-writer of ours and producer. And after I watched that film, this was about the same time that I decided to do a Friday the 13th fan film, is right before his came out. And when his did come out, I watched it, and I felt like that was the perfect time frame. It wasn't too long and it wasn't too short. So I really just wanted to try to make it around that hour length. And it's they call it kind of like a mid-length feature, basically. But yeah, it feels like the perfect amount of time for what we did.
Now, there's a lot. Let me comment. Let me just say this: your film looks like a professionally made horror film. I was like, this is what I don't see this type of high quality production values with a lot of fan films, and this one being an hour long made it look, man, I wish this was a whole feature film I was watching here. So I want to give you kudos for that,
Thank
because
you.
you did a great job with the locations. Amazing locations, and your cinematographer and your makeup artist did some phenomenal work on there. Most especially the makeup artist. I was not expecting, the first time I saw the film, I was not expecting the Pamela Voorhees character coming back. I actually really enjoyed that. That was something refreshing. I hadn't seen that. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen that in a fan film. Most of the ones I've seen, she's either alive and they're doing like this weird little prequel thing, or it's mostly just Jason. So I have to give you kudos for that. That was refreshingly original and different. So
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a risk. We took a risk, but we always felt like, we needed something different to bring Jason back. And that's what we always look for in the franchise, right? We always look for that unique take on how Jason is resurrected or comes back from the dead. And throughout the franchise, Pamela's kind of been forgotten, other than a few little touches on it. And you know, the fact that, me being an Evil Dead fan, obviously can tell by the atmosphere, it has a little bit of Evil Dead in it. Um, what funner way than to have this type of, I don't want to say campy, but, resurrecting and having this headless corpse walking around his mother. I just thought it was this creepy, eerie, fun thing to add to it. And, Pamela, if you really look at it, Jason learned everything he knows from her, so she's more vicious.
and that was a great way to start the very first killing. um, yeah, I that's why I was saying I was had to commend your whole makeup team and on that, because you brought up a great point. It's very much like Evil Dead. I don't know why it just didn't dawn on me at the first time. I like that's very much Evil Dead now that I think about it. Now I'm gonna have to watch it again, thinking of it in that reference.
Well, I always loved how Evil Dead had that atmosphere where the fog was its own character. In a sense, it was a part of the evil, and that's kind of what I wanted to feel, is that when Pamela's around in that curse, that's what the fog is. It's kind of that cold, cursed area. And so when you cross that threshold over the fence, when the fugitives climb, that's when the fog starts, and you're in that dark, cursed zone.
Yeah, very, very good. I didn't think about that. See, this is why I have to rewatch the film several times, because after I talk to you filmmakers, I'm like, ah, oh, damn it, I didn't pick up on that. Let me rewatch that. Uh, so that's good. That's good. So this is bringing me up to my next question. Some of your locations were extremely detailed. Where did you shoot this at, and how difficult was it to shoot at this location?
Well, basically, we took about three different areas. It's in the Portland, Oregon, Washington area, the Pacific Northwest. Kind of when you're in Portland, Vancouver area is kind of connected in a sense. But Oregon City is where my aunt and uncle live, and they have a 30-acre farm. So I was able to utilize the barn. That's, their area. And they allowed us to build the cabin sets down in the woods there. So we were able to do that. Some, the lake shots and the water shots were scattered about up in, towards a little bit north of Portland in the Washington area. But, we had a lot of freedom being able to build some of the cabin sets and design our own camp, because without having that property, it would have limited us quite a bit, especially filming at night, because there's a lot of places you can't film at night, and without having somebody complain about noise. Or I know one of the areas we did when we killed the Marshall Jed, we had a noise complaint at 3 a.m. from all the screaming. So, and that was out in the woods too. So we were pretty loud, I guess. But yeah, having that opportunity to be able to build your own sets and do kind of free reign on what you want. It was difficult to get because you had to go down this hill. So luckily my uncle had ATVs and stuff, so we were able to haul stuff down through an ATV and back up. But it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge, but to be able to do what we did and bring Camp Crystal, because we kind of lost Camp Crystal Lake throughout the franchise as well. I know they touched on it in the remake, but I always wanted to see that deterioration of the camp, and it's kind of like the rest of Jason and Pamela. It's dying, it's deteriorating, decay, and so I always just wanted to show that side of the camp.
Nice. Well, it adds tremendous production value to the film. That I was like really impressed. I was like trying to figure out where you shot this film, and if it was like, I'm now a little bit more impressed because you said you built everything. I was like, wow. I'm like, I thought you guys went out there and found these perfect locations, dressed them up a little bit for the Crystal Lake, whole Camp Crystal Lake. But if you built them, wow, that's impressive. Well, actually, for a fan film, by the way. So
yeah, no, thank you. You growing up as an actor, you kind of like, I learned filmmaking as an actor being on set. So I learned a few things, and doing the haunted houses, you learn set building because you gotta build your own thing. So the interior of the cabins were, we kind of recycled, used some interior for other things. But when Serena, and the fugitives were hiding in the one cabin, that was actually a interior set that we built inside the barn. More like a television type set. So we could have control of the lighting and move the cameras around. And then we just took those walls, reversed them, and built the exterior of the cabins down the hill.
Yeah. Nice. It looks really good.
Thank you.
So, you brought it up a couple of times now, with the whole haunted house thing. Tell me a little bit about working in a haunted house. That sounds very interesting, since it had such a profound effect on how you built everything for this film.
Well, I know, when I started doing haunted houses, the first scene design was always a Friday the 13th one. So I always had that in mind. But yeah, over the years, you kind of, it's haunted houses are similar to making movies, but I think making movies is easier because you just have to build it that one time, and if and get the shot, and once you get the shot, you're like, okay, I can walk away now. With a haunted house, if something gets broken, you got to fix it because you still have people going through for 4 hours straight, and it's constantly resetting and going over and over and over and over again, where sure, you may have to do 10 takes on a scene, but it's a lot less stressful, I think, than doing a haunted house, because it's like high octane theater in a sense, making sure, and especially when you're in charge of a haunted house, you're in charge. I think I gained a little bit of my directing skill, running a haunt as well, to where you're constantly having to cover, run through, make sure all the actors are good, make sure all the scenes are good, and man your own scene at the same time. So it's very fast paced. So that, I think, having that experience kind of helped me a little bit as a filmmaker as well.
Okay. All right. So, what was your inspiration for doing a Jason film as opposed to a Freddy film or any other type of fan film?
I just, out of all the slasher films, I mean, growing up as a kid, Jason was always, Friday the 13th was always the go-to. It was always the one that I had the love for the most, and I'm no stranger to Elm Street or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or, any of them, Pinhead. Obviously I'm a fan of the Evil Dead as well, but that I knew Friday the 13th. I knew it well enough to where I felt comfortable being able to tell a story with it, because you have to know the material. And especially when we're you're touching on characters, and like we did with bringing back Adrian King. These are sacred characters, so you have to really respect them and make sure that you don't damage that for fans, because you can really hurt it in a sense, especially with the lawsuits right now with the rights battle. You're Friday the 13th for the moment for these fans, and that's a big responsibility.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Have you ever done another a fan film previous to this one, or have you done one after this one? Because I'm not sure when this one was actually finished.
We actually, this Jason Rising came out just this last August on Friday the 13th. The inception was in 2017, so this was over a 3-year project.
Okay.
And of course, we had a lot of obstacles with COVID. We had all the wildfires in the Northwest with the heavy smoke, which we couldn't film on certain days.
Oh.
We had an ice storm that tore down the camp. So I mean, we were hit left and right. So having a year shut down, especially with COVID and everything, because we're a SAG production, so we had to go by regulations at the time just to be able to continue filming, which is having a skeleton crew on set is very tough sometimes, because you're limited on what you can do, so you can only do just a little bit during a day. You got your sound guy, and I'll bring Carl out and an actor, and we just have to get what we can. But I haven't done any other fan films other than this. This was the first one, and this was the first time I've ever directed anything. So I did do a short film, an original piece before this, but it's just you learn a lot in 3+ years of making a film. So it feels like you've been working as a director a lot longer.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. So, is this something you see? This is your first film as a director. Is this something you're going to pursue after this, or was it like I did my fan film for my favorite slasher genre, and I'm done? I'll just stick to writing and doing everything else.
No, I love the fact that I can kind of take all the stuff I've learned over the years, and utilize that. Kind of a jack of all trades kind of thing. But no, I it's always about the story. If the right story's there, and it's worth putting the effort in, because you're married to a project like that, and you learn things, and you get better at them, and you become a better writer, a better director. You block scenes better, but that's just that's human nature. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and so it makes it easier and a little bit less stressful. And because there's a lot of obstacles when you're making a film, and it's very blood, sweat, and tears through the whole process, and it's hard you really can't sit back and enjoy it until it's all finished.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of a motivator at the same time to get the film done.
Yeah, especially a fan film. I mean, I've worked on a couple. I've never done my own. I've worked on a couple, and it's always the excitement of the cast and crew seeing the final edited release version that I always love to see. I love to see.
Yeah.
I love to see their reactions for the films. And, for some reason, I've done some other films that are not fan films, but for the fan films, you always get the actors and the crew that really, really put their heart and soul into it. Because they just love the franchises. And then when they see the final version, it's like those 3 years is really worth it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, not only that, but when we locked in Adrian King to reprise the role of Alice, and not only that, but be able to have Amy Steele do her voiceover, that says that we're doing something right. That they liked what the concept was, and what we were doing, and it legitimizes it a bit more than just your average fan film. So that pushes you as well, because you really want to show the fans that you know what you're doing, but you want to show the alumni that you're serious and passionate about their characters, the story that they were a part of, and give them something special, throughout their alumni, post Friday the 13th world that they live in, going to cons and stuff. And Adrian's been great. She's really been promoting at cons, Jason Rising, and it's nice to see that she really supports, the efforts. So it's been a lot of fun.
So how was it working with these two iconic actresses, Adrian King and Amy Steele?
Well, Adrian, she's always, campaigned that Alice never died. So, seeing that, you want to give her that opportunity, get that little revenge. Because, if you know some of the stories, the backstory of why they killed off Alice, and if you really watch part two, that whole beginning scene didn't even need to be there. It was sort of an excuse to get rid of her because of what was going on, in her real life. And I felt like if you took that out of part two, it wouldn't have made a difference for the rest of the film. So it's like, and she always thought that, it was a hallucination or something like that. But they put out the special features recently in a box set where they only show the ice pick coming out the side of her nose, and that wouldn't have killed her. So we thought, let's use that. Let's play off that. And we can create, a backstory that, the Daltrey, old man Daltrey was there on the crime scene and helped her get through it. So we wanted to tie it in, and I think it worked. And she's an amazing, fun spirit to have on set, and she's raring to go as soon as she's in costume, and she knows that character. And I think we were able to do it in a way that didn't hurt it.
Not at all. All right. So, other than the weather and COVID and the wildfires being challenges on the set, what were some of the other challenges of making this fan film? Because I know a lot of our audience who make fan films or want to make fan films obviously want to know the challenges of making a fan film.
Well, making it is, I think, it just depends on what you have available to you. I was able to utilize, like my uncle's property and things like that. You I guess beg, borrow, and steal, and utilize every favor you can to get it done. And all your spare time's gone, and your wife's wondering what the hell you're doing, and going, how, you're nuts. But the hard part, I think, is running a fundraising campaign, because that takes up all your spare time. That's, especially if you're new to it. There's a lot to learn. Raising the money, I wish I had all that money myself to be able to just pay for it and do it myself, because it would have been a lot less stressful. But it's a whole nother animal running the campaign as opposed to making a movie, because you have to do all this creativity stuff, and then you're a warehouse of perks and a shipping facility, and you have to house all this stuff and get it out to people. And I mean, there's obviously different ways to do it, but the way, cost efficient wise, you just tackle it on your own. So it takes a lot of time doing that. But doing an independent film, regardless of whether it's a fan film or not, you have to wear more hats than usual, because not everybody wants to work for free. And it's just, that's the challenge of doing these things. I'm running fog, going action from afar. I don't get to just sit in a chair with my coffee cup, calling action and having, servants take care of everything. It doesn't work like that. You're doing what needs to be done to get the shot, no matter what it is. There's times when, and that's a testament to my cinematographer, Carl, who I have to trust him when I can't view through a monitor or see what's in frame. I can run over there really quick and go, okay, yeah, that looks good. I have to really pay attention when I'm off camera or off to the side doing something else, either running fog or I might be dealing with Dan's fingernails coming off, and so I'm doing makeup while another scene is being shot. So you just have to, roll with the punches, just do whatever needs to be done to get the shot, because in the end, that's what we see. It's just what's in the lens. So whatever it takes to get there.
Nice. So, by the way, how long did it take to actually film the movie? Since you had to build all the sets and do all that type of stuff, was it?
Well, we actually started filming, I think, in 2018. And it was the first weekend of really shooting, aside from concept trailers, was the opening scene with Old Man Daltrey arriving at the gate, and Vincent Dasani flew up from LA, and we had him on set. And yeah, it was a fun weekend, hard weekend, long night. You come home when the sun's coming up, and just, you're building sets. I like the gate. I built that gate a few hours before I had to drive over there. So it's just like, because you're like, well, we don't have a gate, but we got a road, so I'll build one. I'll run to the wood place and grab some boards, and I'll make a gate. And that's the mentality that you have to have, is you figure it out. So it's problem solving.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but overall, it took like as far as time goes, we uploaded the final version of the film the morning of the premiere.
oh wow.
It was down to that's how close it was to the wire. And if it failed, if the upload failed, I don't know what we would have done. We'd have been hosed.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, that's impressive and dangerous. But hey,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that everything went fine for the premiere.
Oh yeah, no, that worked out great, because sometimes you have like effects plugins that don't show up for whatever reason. So you have these little tweaks and errors happen, and we actually got the final mastered version of the score and the audio the night before. So we had to upload the final, edit and everything in the morning. Or actually, we did it that night, and it failed. So then Carl did it again in the morning, and it worked out, because we had our first sound check or viewing check at the theater at around 11. So it just made it.
Okay. So you brought up something else I want to comment on, is the score for the film, which really does a tremendous job in setting the mood and tone for the film, as well as paying homage to the actual franchise. And you said you worked on the score. Did you do the whole score?
Yeah, well, Gabe Johnson, who's a amazing studio engineer and musician as well. Him and I go way back, playing in bands, and I've known him since I was really young. And him and I have always had a good creative relationship. And when I brought him the idea, it was like, yes, we're going to do this. And so him and I just, I created score pieces. I kind of went off the mentality of the way John Carpenter did Halloween, where he was short on time, and he just created these bits, like 6 to 8 bits, and just built on top of them certain character and tension moments. And that's how we kind of approached it, because we knew that especially once we had the release date listed, then we were on a time crunch. And not only that, but we never had a final edit until the very end. I mean, we were down to the wire on trying to do an edit lock. So there was a lot of moments where you start working on that's one of the reasons why we had to do it in chunks, because you're working, you're trying to score and get ahead of it and do Foley and stuff, but then you change an edit, and then you're kind of having to restart. And it was frustrating for Gabe as an engineer to have to go back and find these tracks and move them over. So I mean, there's a lot of things, do's and don'ts, that you learn the hard way on. But it was quite an experience, I think, learning how to, score a film like that and be able to create a mood, an iconic, I guess, little hook that we created. I remember it was a smoke break. You know, Gabe went out and had a smoke, and there's a grand piano in the main studio room. And I just went and was dinking around while he was having a smoke break. And that's when I came up with the ding, 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 that little key. And I'm like, oh, that could work. It's simple, but it's effective. So we just kind of used that as our main Camp Crystal Lake theme and built from there.
Nice. I really enjoyed the score. That's why I had to make sure I made note of that. I was like,
thank you,
because it goes perfect with the film. It goes perfect with the film. What are you first? Can you tell me what you're working on now? I know a lot of people like to keep it secret, but what are you working on now?
Well, so a lot of it too is finishing out the campaign for the Blu-rays. Oh. So we're Carl and I are editing the special features, doing like a little featurette. We filmed interviews with the cast, and so we're just putting that together. I was actually working on that last night with him a little bit, but once we get that done, that's kind of the main focus at the for the time being. So, there's a few things brewing, but, we just, it takes a lot to, step away from, getting the perks finished and out to the backers before you can really dive into something creatively again and put all your focus into it, because, it's been so long. Some of these backers have, paid for their Blu-rays, and it's been 3 years and they're wondering where the hell their Blu-ray is. But it's just, since we were up to the wire, we didn't really have an opportunity to really focus on anything extra aside from getting the film put together. So that's kind of the main thing, is getting the perks out to everybody and finishing that up as soon as we can.
No, that's great to hear, because I know a lot of people who fund films always wonder where their perks are. The film's out, blah blah blah. But it's great to hear from a filmmaker who actually did a campaign that you were dedicated to getting what the perks to your financiers. So that's great to hear. So
yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to see them. They post, they got their stuff, and they're excited about it, and I understand that. And I've backed other campaigns. I backed Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and a few other ones, and it's fun to receive that. But we look at it as, yeah, it's taken a little bit of time, but it's the end result. But when you get that final piece of the puzzle of the perks, it's like your wedding album. That's all you have left after you get married is that memory of it. So we want to make that as special as we can for backers to see some of the stuff that really we had to go through as filmmakers to make this happen.
Yeah. Well, any final words you'd like to tell everybody about your film before we go for this interview? Anything?
Just, we can't thank all of our backers enough, because we couldn't have done it without them. Having the fan support has been amazing. I mean, we're over 500,000 views in 3 months. So that's kind of an amazing thing as well. And, if you haven't watched it, if you're into Friday the 13th and you want to see something a little out there, check it out. Fan films are, don't let that fan film term throw you off, because there's a lot of good films out there that are fan films. So,
and I'll agree with that. And that's the kind of the mentality I think a lot of people have about fan films. I mean, even my co-festival director had never really watched a fan film before we decided to do this event. And it's just, I think there's like a negative connotation to the word fan film that I think we all need to change. Fan films are just as good as real films, and many times better.
They can be. I mean, we unfortunately, with the whole legal thing, we kind of have to watch our P's and Q's.
Yeah.
So we kind of use that as our scapegoat a little bit to say, this is a fan film, it's not official. And that tends, because there's a lot of backyard fan films that people that aren't high quality, which is fine. You have, I don't, throw any negative vibes out their way by any means, because you got to learn, you got to get out and shoot, and good for them that they're going out and doing it. But there are different levels of fan films.
There you go.
And, there's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Dirty Laundry, that was shot, had Tom Jane in it, and Ron Perlman. It was a Punisher fan film. So there are fan films out there, even though they're considered fan films, they're legitimizing what they're doing by having that support of actual cast members of these films. Yeah. And Never Hike Alone did it with Tom Matthews and several others. So don't let that mess you up.
Exactly. Well, James, it has been a pleasure talking with you about your film, Jason Rising. And hopefully we'll get more people to watch it, whether at film festivals or online. So please keep us in the loop on where people can watch your film after this. We'll make sure to post it, or even if you need people to purchase Blu-rays or something. I'm sure we can make sure to put the notice out there for you. But yes, we wish you nothing but luck and success for the next film festival and your next project. So thank you so much for speaking with us.
No, thank you. We appreciate it. Being a part of the festival and everything. And, this is amazing. So to be able to celebrate doing a fan film like this and having an opportunity to speak about it is great.